If archaeology had an award for small object, huge consequences, this thing would be a top contender. It's not some golden crown or a dramatic cave painting. Nope. It's this modest, palm-sized object that forces us to ask some really big questions about our ancient relatives. And it all starts with one of the biggest questions of all.
I mean, it sounds like a simple question, right? But the answer, well, the answer could completely reshape how we think about the deep past and who our ancient relatives really were.
And this is it. This is the Tata Plaque. It's the key piece of evidence right at the heart of an investigation that challenges some of our oldest stereotypes about Neanderthals.
Okay, so our first step here is just to gather the facts. We've got to look at this object like a detective examining clues at a crime scene, starting with the object itself. What is it?
So the first clue is what it's made of. This isn't just any old bone or stone. It's a piece of a mammoth's molar. Now, mammoth tooth enamel is hard, it's durable, and it has this really cool, visually striking layered pattern. That choice wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate selection.
So how do archaeologists know for sure this was intentionally made? Well, a couple of key reasons. First, the edges weren't just randomly broken. Microscopic analysis shows they were carefully shaped and beveled. And second, there are traces of red ochre. That's a natural pigment rubbed right onto its surface. That combination, the intentional shaping plus adding color, that is the classic signature of an object that was meant to be more than just a tool.
And here's the kicker. Uranium series dating puts this object at around 100,000 years old. That is incredibly ancient. It lands it squarely in the Middle Paleolithic, a time long associated with Neanderthals in Europe. And that age is exactly what makes this little plaque so revolutionary.
So, okay, we've got an intentionally modified 100,000-year-old object. Case closed, it's an ornament, right? Well, this is where the investigation gets really tricky, and where we have to start thinking like scientists, because the words we use, they mean everything.
This is where precision is absolutely critical. You see, a personal ornament specifically means something that was worn on the body. To prove that, we'd need evidence, like a little hole for a cord, or maybe wear marks from being hung up. But the Tata Plaque doesn't have either of those. That's why archaeologists use a broader, more cautious term, decorated object. It confirms that, yes, it was intentionally modified for some symbolic or aesthetic reason, but it doesn't make a claim about how it was used that we just can't prove.
This whole idea is just perfectly captured in this quote from the source material. It really highlights that difference between casual curiosity and scientific precision. The same question requires a totally different level of rigor.
And scientists are even more cautious with a word like amulet. I mean, that word implies a belief in magic or protection, a specific function that was inside someone's head 100,000 years ago. That's a claim that is basically impossible to prove from the object alone, so researchers stick to what the physical evidence can actually support.
So while we can't definitively call it jewelry, it is powerful evidence of symbolic thought. And that's crucial, because the Tata Plaque isn't some one-off curiosity. It's actually part of a much larger emerging picture of Neanderthal behavior.
This timeline really helps put things in perspective. Look at the dates. Those pigmented shells from Spain, also linked to Neanderthals, are even older than Tata. But look down at the bottom entry. The earliest undisputed personal ornaments, things we are absolutely certain were worn, come from southern Africa and are linked to modern humans, but they show up later. This really shows why that precision matters so much. Tata is one of the oldest decorated objects, but not necessarily the oldest personal ornament. See the difference?
And the evidence just keeps piling up. In Croatia, we have eagle talons from Krapina with clear marks that suggest they were worn as a necklace. In Spain, we have perforated shells covered in pigment, and in France, a whole collection of ornaments. So you see, the Tata Plaque isn't an anomaly, it's a key piece in this growing puzzle of Neanderthal complexity.
So what's the final verdict from our deep dive into this one small object? I mean, what does the Tata Plaque really teach us?
Well, it teaches us how to think. First, define your terms. Ornament is not the same as decorated object. Second, scrutinize the evidence. That combination of shaping and pigment is key. Third, build a pattern. Remember, Tata isn't alone. And finally, and maybe most importantly, embrace the real story. The nuanced truth is always so much more fascinating than a simple headline.
In the end, the true power of an object like the Tata Plaque isn't that it settles a debate with a simple yes or no. Its real value is something much, much deeper. They force us to ask better questions. They push us to be more precise, more curious, and to abandon these old cartoonish ideas of the past for a picture that is far more complex and, far more human.